Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Daniel, and today in this video we'll be covering my round 2 game from the Midwest Class Championships that happened in Chicago. As I said, this was my round 2 game, and here I'm playing the white pieces, and let's take a look at what happened. D4. We go into a Queen's Gambit decline. Here A6 is a move, basically trying to go for B5 whenever I move this bishop on F1. Because the idea is, let's say, castles, which happened in the game, and bishop d3. Now you take, because I pretty much wasted a move in a sense by moving my bishop. And then here you play b5 to get my bishop back, which all actually happened in the game. And then bishop b7 just to control this long diagonal. Here I castle, knight b to d7, preparing c5. Here I play queen e2. My idea is to maybe push e4 at some point, because here I can't play e4 because then there is this b4 move, which basically kicks my knight away. Although I do have e5 here, but things get a bit complicated, so I didn't go for this. Instead, after c5 here, I actually took, which actually is a little bit of a mistake because here my opponent has bishop captures on f3. This I kind of missed. But however, here the idea is that if I play queen captures on f3, there is simply knight e5, attacking my queen and double attacking my bishop, and at which point I would be losing because I'm about to lose a piece. Queen e2, then knight takes on d3. Actually, knight takes on d3 doesn't work because there is rook a to d1 to pin the knight, but there is simply just queen captures on d3, and then after queen takes and knight takes, black is just clearly winning here. So instead I have to play g captures on f3 and admit that my pawn structure will be a bit more damaged than usual. Here knight takes, rook f to d1, setting up a bishop captures on h7 threat. Let's say rook a to c8. Then here simply bishop captures on h7, king takes, and rook takes the queen. And this position is winning for white. So instead, knight f to d7 was played. Here I trade, and I put my knight onto e4. Here what my opponent should have done is play knight takes on d3. However, thankfully they played knight takes on e4. Here after bishop captures on e4, I'm attacking this rook in the corner. Here my opponent plays rook a to c8, and here bishop b7 is actually a move to pick up a pawn. However, I didn't go for this because this seemed a little bit dangerous after something like rook c5, bishop captures on a6. And then here there is a move like knight to b8, which actually ends up trapping my bishop right now. So I didn't actually want to go for this. Also, there's like rook g5 ideas, and my king is wide open, and it just doesn't look too good for me. Instead, I played bishop captures on h7, another move I saw after king takes and queen d3 check, king g8. I played queen captures on b7. This was the point. I had to bait the king out a little bit so I can give a check and then pick up the knight. Here, queen g5 check was played, and here I had to make the really tough decision between king f1, king h1. I in the end picked king f1 because basically I saw after king h1 there is queen f6, and basically my opponent can take this pawn with check. So if I defend it via queen b7, then after queen takes on b2, king g1, there is like rook c2, and basically my 7th rank is going to get completely busted. So instead I went for king to f1, so that now if queen f6, I can play something like queen d4. And here, even though queen captures on f3 doesn't come with check, I guess this is still losing, at least based on what the computer is saying, because I still get completely busted on the 7th rank. However, here, alternatively, I do have a move like rook a to c1, apparently. If you play queen captures on b2, then I can simply take here. And also, if you take this rook first, then after we trade and queen captures on b2, and something like rook to c8, this is just completely equal. So, instead, however, here my opponent played queen to e5, attacking b2 and h2 instead. Here I played the difficult rook d2, because the reason why it's difficult is because I seen something like rook to d8, at which point I would have to sack my queen for 2 rooks. Something like this, check, king here, and rook comes back to d2, queen takes h2, and after rook a to d1, I sack my queen for the 2 rooks. Here I don't have any other choice because if I move my queen, then this rook is undefended, and there's no way for me to like move my queen in a way where I can defend this rook, because I need the queen to be on a dark square, something like on the diagonal to defend it, but that isn't like feasible in this position. So then I would have to sack my queen for the 2 rooks. However, here queen takes h2 was played. Here I play king e2. So now if something like this happens, rook f to d8, I have like queen b7, let's say. Here we just traded down a little bit. And here I started to move my king up. Here I played something a little bit more tricky. And then here I tried to force my opponent back. Credit to my opponent, they played actually really, really well. And they found all the correct responses. And here at this point, I set one final trap after king to d3. If my opponent were to play g5 here, this looks like black is winning because after f captures on g5, then after king captures on e5, this looks completely winning for black because black is getting in. However, here white has the spectacular move f4 check. The idea is if you play king captures on f4, after g6, this pawn is getting through and I'm winning this game. Alternatively, if you don't take the pawn and you play something like king d5, then this pawn on g6 still runs anyway. And this pawn perfectly blocks this king from being able to get back in time. You can play something like e5, but after g7, if you give a check, your king is simply too far, and I can simply pick up these two pawns after it and win the game. And here, after f4 check, this pawn on g5 perfectly stops this king from being able to access the f6 square, from which it could blockade the g5 pawn. However, this is impossible, as I mentioned, because the g5 pawn covers f6. So the king is basically forced to go back, and after g6, king to e7. Here, king d4, and then if you play king f6, then king c5, I pick up this pawn, and then this pawn can become a queen. So, however, my opponent did spot this, so alternatively, here in this position, despite this tricky trap, he went back, and here we actually agreed to a draw because there's no way for any of us to make forward progress. So this game was relatively peaceful, not too worried about, wasn't too concerned with this game. I mean, I checked like the accuracy afterwards. We both played really, really well. I played like 95.1, he played 95.3, so it was a generally very good game by both of us. I guess just like a small opening mishap if I had to pinpoint any mistakes in this game. And yeah, so hope you all enjoyed. So currently I'm on 0.5 out of 2 as my score. And yeah, see you all in the round 3 recap, and let's see what I can do there.